One of the traditions I started after my son was killed August 2nd, 2006, was to honor and remember him on the anniversary of his death by writing something to share with friends, family, teammates, and supporters. I wanted to give everyone else a glimpse into this young man that I knew, who lived to the fullest the 28 years he was given on earth. Through the years, I've written about the details of his birth, how I picked his name, his humor, his years growing up, his courage, and many other sides of Marc. It's hard to believe that it will be 14 years since he made the choice to give his life to save his teammates. While I want people to understand the sacrifice, the loss, and never forget, I don't want the writings to be a Debbie Downer. Why is it that my name must be associated with that, yet when I use that phrase, people get it? I want people to be inspired, challenged, encouraged, and have hope. After writing 14 of these since 2006, trying to find new stories or aspects about Marc requires a little more contemplation. This year, I want to share with you the attention and detail that Marc gave to his gear and how he prepared for battle. Before Marc even joined the Navy, he was preparing for battle. Marc had a contract from the recruiter to go to BUD/S to try out to see if he had what it takes to become a SEAL. The elite of the elite, as President Bush wrote to me. Marc had spent years not just physically, but mentally developing the warrior mindset, which was even more important to his success than the physical aspect. He read numerous books, but one he continued to read over and over about being a warrior and preparing for battle. He worked on developing courage, perseverance, strength, fortitude. He studied the enemy and their tactics. He learned the chain of command and what would be expected of him as a warrior. He read biographies of other warriors. He made sure all of his armor was sharpened, sighted in, clean, camouflaged, and perfected, ready to go. Physically, he prepared by swimming, running, and working out to the extreme. In July 2001, Marc completed his Navy basic training in Great Lakes and headed to Pensacola for his aviation ordnance training, which was required at that time before he could go to BUD/S. He chose this training as it was the shortest school and would get him to BUD/S quicker. He arrived in January 2001 and started Class 239. He was pushing hard and using those skills he had worked on to continue through each week. He would watch as numerous other recruits would choose to give up in the midst of their adversity and ring the bell, and in their dream to become a Navy SEAL. Early Thursday morning of Hell Week, they would do a medical check on Marc and find pneumonia and pulmonary edema, and he was pulled from the training. Even in the midst of that, Marc told them he was good to go. He could do this. They'd lost a recruit several classes before with the same condition and would not allow Marc to proceed. He would heal and then join Class 240, starting all over at the beginning. Marc pushed through the training and he entered Hell Week again. Life circumstances and influence from others would cause Marc to lose the focus of his goal to become a Navy SEAL. 24 hours into his second Hell Week would find him ringing the bell and quitting BUD/S training. When you leave the SEAL training, you do not just go back to civilian life. You have to complete your contract with the Navy. You have that commitment. And he was sent to the USS Eisenhower that was in dry dock for repairs. So he was assigned to drive a shuttle bus for the Army, and he was hating life. Marc was devastated. He was discouraged. He was defeated, and he felt he had failed. He went back to the book that he had read over and over and worked on strengthening his warrior mindset. I remember a call that Marc and I had that he shared. He had made a terrible mistake ringing the bell. I asked several questions of Marc to help him clarify his direction and discern if he should try to go back to BUD/S. He even told me he spoke with his commander, and they agreed he should go back. He knew that he needed to go back if they would accept him one more time, and that nothing would stop him. He had to write essays, do extra PT, physical training, meet with officers and commanders, and be drilled to make sure he had what it takes. Finally, after a year, he received a letter confirming he had been accepted in Class 251. He was headed back to Coronado to fulfill his dream of becoming a Navy SEAL. Marc was determined to succeed and was in running for the honor man in his class. I remember that call when he called to tell me that he did not get honor man, I get it, I'm competitive, but I reminded him that he had graduated and earned his trident. He was a Navy SEAL. I was so proud of him and that he did not give up on his dream. Marc could have chosen to have his choice to quit buds define the rest of his life. Yet he chose to step back from the emotions and evaluate the circumstances and his goals and desires. We all have choices we make in the midst of our failures, our trials, our tragedies in life, and then whether we let that define us or we adapt and overcome it. Marc chose to recognize his failure and committed to putting his armor on every day and not letting the enemy conquer him in his thinking. He prepared every day for battle. One of the things Marc took great care in was his big gun that he carried. Marc was about 6'1", weighed about 220, and had muscles that were big guns. And I'm sure that was why he was picked to carry the pig, as the guys called it. Marc carried anywhere from 150 to 180 pounds in addition to his own weight, with that weapon and all the extra rounds and gear that he needed for his mission. It was heavy. I cannot even imagine running in 115, 120 degree weather while bullets are whizzing past you carrying that kind of weight. The guy said he would spend so much time cleaning and painting that gun with the camo design so as not to be spotted when he was in an overwatch. He was meticulous with how he took care of it. He knew that beast of a gun was going to help him successfully complete his mission and keep his teammates safe. Marc was the new guy on his platoon, and he joined them after their workup, as they had to let one of the guys go, and he was the replacement. They asked for the best new guy to fill that need, and Marc was selected. It was common for the big gunner to carry it with a sling because of the weight. Marc did not use a sling. The guys razzed him, "Oh, you tough guy, got something to prove," and told him, "You will give in and get a sling." The guys told me later they took bets on how long before he caved in and gave into a sling. 2 days, 3 days. Marc never did carry that with a sling, another testament to his strength. He had a lot of gear and armor that was part of his preparation each time he went out on a mission. He also prepared mentally, physically, and spiritually for every mission, every battle. August 2nd, 2006 was a day that forever changed my life, my family's life, Marc's teammates' life. Marc was prepared for that day. Armed with courage, he faced his fears and did what he had to do, what he knew was the right thing to do. Marc chose to stand in the direct line of fire numerous times in Ramadi. But on that day, August 2nd, he did that 3 times that day. He chose to give his life to save his teammates. He had so much to live for. So many people who loved him, and he loved so many deeply. He did not weigh the pros and the cons. He just knew it was the right thing to do. He was prepared to die if that was required of him. Marc successfully completed his mission, and I will see him again one day. Marc was redeployed to heaven. He wasn't redeployed to heaven because he sacrificed his life for his teammates or for our freedoms. Marc is in heaven today because he believed Jesus Christ was his Lord and Savior. He knew someone else who had been prepared for his mission to sacrifice his life. He knew Jesus Christ chose to be nailed to a cross for him, for you, for me, to save us. It's been 14 years since Marc physically left this world, and it's pretty amazing to see the impact he is still making around the world. Our Helping Heroes Heal program provides healing therapies for our veterans with post-traumatic stress, traumatic brain injury, and suicidal thoughts. We've had so many of our vets who have gone through our program who told us they would not be alive today if it wasn't for our foundation and therapies provided. One of the SEALs who completed our program reached out to me and was sharing the difference the treatments had made. He mentioned the changes in each different physical symptom that he noticed and said that we had changed so much and saved him. I told him it was my honor to do that. He was willing to give his life for me. It's the least I could do. Then he said firmly, "Stop." I paused and listened, and with deep emotion he said, You literally saved my life. I wouldn't be alive today if it wasn't for you and your foundation. And he said that. I thought of Mark and his final actions to run into the line of fire to save his teammates. And the thought came of the reality that Mark is still saving his teammates' lives, even though he isn't physically here. For so many of our veterans, when they get out, they go into a downward spiral because they haven't found their new mission. They tend to forget their warrior mindset because they aren't in combat and in the battle. I remind them that they are still in a battle. It's just a different kind of battle. I ask them, when you were in combat, did you one day decide not to put on your armor before you went out for a mission? Did one day you say, I don't think I will take any ammo, or I'm not going to take my firearm or my grenades? No, that would be insanity. You put on your full gear, you checked and you double checked to make sure you had everything to be successful. You still need to do that and fully gear up. It's a different type of armor. It's a different battle, but we still need to be prepared. I challenge them to read that book that Mark kept reading over and over to develop his warrior mindset. That book was the Bible. His commander that I mentioned he checked in with was God. He learned those character qualities of courage, perseverance, strength, fortitude, selfless sacrifice from Jesus Christ. Psalms 144:1 says, Praise be to the Lord, my rock, who trains my hands for war, my fingers for battle. He is my loving God and my fortress, my stronghold and my deliverer, my shield, in whom I take refuge, who subdues people under me. I've been through lots of trials and tragedies in my life, but losing Mark is the toughest thing I've ever been through. Talk about a battle. Yet God prepared me for this. Just like Mark, I've read that book, the Bible, over and over and over. Every year I read that book and it never gets old. Because I read it and studied it, I knew God's character. I knew he would see me through this. He was still the same God on August 2nd as he was on August 1st. His character hadn't changed. My circumstances had drastically changed, but he hadn't. I'm reading in Joshua right now. Talk about battles and a warrior who trusted God. The warrior mindset that is in that book is so powerful. Have you put on your full armor today? It's not a feeling thing that you choose to do this. It's a mindset that you choose to do this with your will, that you can control. In Ephesians, it talks about the armor of God. Finally, be strong in the Lord in his mighty power. Put on the full armor of God so that you can take stand against the devil's schemes. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Therefore, put on the full armor of God so that when the day of evil comes, you may be able to stand your ground. And after you've done everything to stand, stand firm then, with the belt of truth buckled around your waist, with the breastplate of righteousness in place, and with your feet fitted with the readiness that comes from the gospel of peace. In addition to all this, take up the shield of faith with which you can extinguish all the flaming arrows of the evil one. Take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God, and pray in the Spirit on all occasions with all kinds of prayers and requests. With this in mind, be alert and always keep on praying for the Lord's people. As we honor and remember Mark and the sacrifice he chose to make on August 2nd, 2006, please continue to pray for our family, for Mark's teammates and his friends. Please help promote what we do through America's Mighty Warriors to support our troops, veterans, and Gold Star families. And if you are able to support our mission, please donate. Thank you to each one of you who's walked alongside us in this journey. Your love, prayers, and support mean so much. Live your life worthy of their sacrifice. Hooyah, Mark Lee!